Bill Fauth. Welcome to the Coach Lodge podcast. So good to have you here today.
Thanks for having me. This is wonderful to be here.
Welcome back to the Coach Lodge podcast, the show for business-minded coaches who are serious about growth. I'm your host, Matthew White, and today's guest is part tax strategist, part financial healer, and part mindset guide. After a lifelong journey of healing from childhood trauma and overcoming his own financial mistakes, Bill Fauth has made it his mission to help solo and micro entrepreneurs to not just make more money, but finally make lack of money a non-issue. He's tax and personal financial planning expert, a solo entrepreneur specialist, and a PSYCH K facilitator who helps clients rapidly transform the beliefs that keep them stuck in stress, fear, and scarcity. Through his extensive work, Bill helps business owners clean up their taxes, get a clear path on financial freedom, and shift from fear-based living to peace, prosperity, and purpose. This isn't just about fixing numbers, it's about healing the person behind the business. Bill, welcome to the Coach Lodge podcast. Are you ready to get going?
Ready. This is great. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. Bill, just to give people a bit of context and background about what you're doing and what you've been up to, give us a little bit of a history, where you've come from, what have you been up to, what brings you to this place today?
The arc of my own personal life is the way I'm helping business owners. We all start off in our 20s with big dreams and desires, and the life kicks us in the shins and we have to redirect. It's like, what is the mental model that we have about the way the world works? What's the map of the territory that I have? If I'm in New York City, but I have a map of Chicago, I'm going to have trouble getting around. And that's what I found is kind of my story. Trouble in my 20s. I don't know how much we want to go into right now, but the idea is that as a child, I was beaten and I had a lot of trauma around that most of my life. So I've had to be self-employed. If I go work for someone else, I didn't trust the boss because the boss was out to get me. That was my belief system. The authority figures were not to be trusted, and the world wasn't safe. And most of my life was in reaction to trying to heal from that, the complex PTSD that we all go through from not coping, or actually coping with our childhood wounds rather than healing from them. And so as entrepreneurs or business owners, we all have issues. Our biggest strength is the guy looking at us in the mirror. The biggest weakness is the guy looking at us in the mirror. So to the extent that we can heal from our childhood wounds is going to color the quality of life all around. So for me, I'm a kind of guy that I wanted to know everything that I could know. So I became a tax expert. I was an adjunct professor of finance and accounting for 17 years, teaching college level students on taxes and investments and bookkeeping and accounting and all that kind of stuff. And then I just started teaching in the certified financial planning program because I took this financial CFP test, which is the financial experts licensing exam, passed that. And then I started teaching in the certification program. So I became the expert's expert, teaching the experts how to be the expert. Because there was nothing I didn't want to know about taxes, investments, retirement planning, estate planning, and insurance. And then I started doing agency building, where with World Financial Group was the company. And we were literally trying to train other people how to be financial advisors and help everyday people improve the quality of their lives around the quality of their finances. And take high net worth strategies for everyday people was the theme. That still seems to be the theme. And then the idea is that I did 20 years of modern psychoanalysis. I wanted to heal from being angry and afraid, and the world is not a safe place. So I did 20 years of modern psychoanalysis, which helped me understand why I was the way I was. And it made me stop having dreams of being chased by dinosaurs and volcanoes and the world blowing up. But it didn't change anything. It just gave me better understanding. And then I did 10 years of moving up the emotional scale with Abraham and trying to understand more of that. And that helped a little bit. But it wasn't until I ran into PSYCH K, which is Bruce Lipton is a Biology of Belief is the book, and The Honeymoon Effect is another book he wrote. And I read those, and he talks about high-speed mindset changing, be able to transfer subconscious beliefs where they live, which is in the subconscious. And it sounded too good to be true, and I was hopeful and prayerful. But after a year of doing my due diligence and being skeptical, I read everything I could on it. I finally hired a PSYCH K facilitator. And in one session, we were able to transform the memory of the horror and terror and the helplessness and hopelessness of being beaten as a child, being whipped by my father with a belt, into a cartoon. Didn't change what happened, but it changed all the emotional meaning making and the background noise and the fear of the way the world is into a cartoon. It became a Buster Keaton slapstick comedy of still being beaten, but it wasn't dangerous anymore. It wasn't scary. It was funny. So for me, that sounded too good to be true. How's that possible? So the next month I was in a PSYCH K basic workshop, then the month after that, an advanced workshop. And I've taken 10 PSYCH K training workshops. And the idea is 2 years of doing it for myself. And if your father is beating you, got to have self-esteem issues. And I had a lot of that, imposter syndrome and self-sabotage. And so I spent a good part of my PSYCH K training healing myself. And so now I'm at the stage where I'm paying it forward, where I'm doing it for other people. And what I find is small business owners, they have the ambition, they have the desire, but they keep running into glass ceiling or the psychological ceiling because of unhealed worthiness issues or imposter syndrome issues. And so once I was able to do that with the PSYCH K, it opened up to spirituality, the realization that there's something bigger part of us. That's my background. And I'm a student of why is the world the way it is? And Richard Barrett has a mental model of the idea of the levels of consciousness that we have. He takes out a piece of paper, and if we take a two-dimensional world and we take our hand and put it on the paper, the people in that two-dimensional world are going to be experiencing our fingertips as crop circles, in the world. They're not going to understand what it is, but they're going to see it there. It's a phenomenon that they're experiencing. And the scientists of their world are going to come up with explanations of why it is the way it is. And if we shift our hand, they'll come up with a reason why everything shifts into unity and so on. But the reality is they can't understand it because a three-dimensional reality that they just can't grasp on the two-dimensional reality. Likewise, there's a fourth-dimensional reality that we in the third dimension find it difficult to grasp. That sense of oneness, that unity that we all have. On a quantum level, scientists have proven that we're all made of energy, particles of energy, and that the energy can never be destroyed. It can only be transformed. And the idea that we aggregate up in consciousness and we become different things, different form, but the energy never gets destroyed. To me, that sounds like universal oneness.
Amazing. So just to take a little bit of a step back, that's all amazing stuff. I'm really interested to be diving into that. I want to just take a step back into your journey into entrepreneurship. Now, you mentioned in the beginning that you've been working for yourself right from the get-go. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Amazing. So I'm really interested in that for starters, just to get it. Let's dissect that a little bit. You went straight into running your own business. Did you go straight into tax?
Well, I worked on an MBA in 1987. It's going to tell you how old I am.
Right.
And then when I got finished with the MBA, I also got married that same year. And I went to work on Wall Street. I started with a municipal bond firm selling tax-free bonds. And then after you get a Series 7, and then from there, I went into a Wall Street firm that did IPOs and took companies public. And there with a Series 7 and so on. And then I got all the licenses to be able to do financial planning. Part of that.
So I just want to, so this is very interesting to me. So you were working kind of like a contractor for these companies?
As a broker for these companies.
As a broker, right? So that takes a lot of guts, first of all. Like I know millions of people in the world that would be afraid of doing that or not even attempt to take the action that you've taken. So I could imagine for you, you got taken a leap to get educated, which is the first big step. And you've gone out there and found opportunity. And you were talking about not trusting the man, right? You had this thing from your past and it was driving you in a way that you knew you had to create income, but you didn't want to have somebody working for you. Didn't want to work for somebody. You wanted to have your own way forward so you can protect your environment, let's say. So I could imagine that that wasn't just an easy journey. Was it an easy journey?
No, I mean, the idea is that the way to start out is to have a framework or a platform. The brokerage firm, the model like the Wolf of Wall Street, or the idea of becoming a broker and helping people with their finances and in the process earning a commission was the idea. But you needed to have all those licenses and you needed a firm to work under or within that basically sponsored you. And so just the structure of the industry. So it's a way to get started. It's a way to learn how it works and so on. Also, at the same time, I was working as a result of my 20 years of modern psychoanalytic. I also was working on becoming a psychoanalyst myself. And I went through a postgraduate program. But I found out one of the things that scared the heck out of me, that made me decide to go on Wall Street rather than becoming a therapist, was that one of my best friends, who was a psychiatrist actually, was killed by one of his patients. Scared the heck out of me.
Oh, wow.
You know, here's a guy who's supposed to know how to manage all that rage and so on. And then one day his patient comes in with a shotgun and blows him away. So I was supposed to know what he's. So for me, it sounded too dangerous to be a therapist.
Wow, interesting. So there was a fork in the road, right? Go down the therapist path or go down the financial planning path. So You obviously chose financial planning now and tax and all that stuff. I love like you've pushed a lot of stuff to get on this journey, right? So there's a lot of education, a lot of learning, a lot of licenses, a lot of certifications. Do you find you're an obsessive person?
I don't know if obsessive is the right word, but curious would be probably, I like to think of it as curious. And what is it that I don't know? Is there something that I don't know? Maybe it's come to fear-based or, I don't want to be blindsided. I want to know what's going on. I want to know what the issues are. And I want to be able to manage them wisely, intelligently. I don't want to be surprised. So that makes me very curious. I took the Strength Finder assessment, and my top strength is learning. I love to learn. I want to know so learning, ideation, intellection, relator are all my strengths, my top 5 strengths.
Do you find that curiosity, right? It's a good thing to have, to be curious all the time. What I've seen in my business and life is there's a difference between just being curious and actually diving into fully immersing yourself in the understanding. So what I mean by that is that some people are curious about things. They might watch a show or watch a documentary. It's the curiosity of it, right? However, you've immersed yourself in this world of understanding finance. And in that, I'm so interested because that's not just like some people have something special, right? Where they just want to know everything. And I love that about you because you've taken a journey, and it hasn't just been a journey of doing, it's been a journey of self-education, self-improvement, and you've immersed yourself in the understanding of everything in that space, and you become this amazing expert in this. It's just interesting to understand and dive into this because I think a lot of people, right, they wanted to do this stuff, but they don't immerse themselves and they don't become that expert. They don't live and learn the whole concept of that. What do you feel is that driving force for you?
Well, I think part of it is that I want to be an ethical person, and I want to be to give people proper advice. I got to know what I'm talking about. I've got to be willing to learn and step outside my comfort zone and be the student rather than the expert. That's where we start. And so for me, it's if I'm going to give somebody advice about their taxes or their finances, I need to be able to know that what I'm telling them is true and accurate, and it's going to help them. That's one of the reasons also why I went from being on the commission side of things, where I gave up all my licenses just to give advice, because I don't want any conflicts of interest. If you're a broker and you're selling something, and it's in your best interest to earn a commission, are you really giving the best advice for the client, or is it really in your best interest? So for me, I needed to give that up because there is a conflict, but I want to be able to give the best, most ethical, appropriate advice for the person based on what they need, not on what I need. And the byproduct of that is if they succeed, I'll succeed.
That is so amazing, Bill. Yeah, this is really interesting conversation. So so you've moved from commission-based consulting to full-blown consulting, right? Just consulting. So on one side of it, you're selling. So you're trying to do a thing to get commission, where you say a lot of people, right, they might not give the best advice because they got to get the sale. Whereas you've kind of moved into a more full-blown consulting type environment where you've got rid of the commission side of things. You're just focusing on helping people so that they can get the best result for themselves based on their situation. Is that correct?
Correct. Exactly that.
That is amazing.
Yeah, in the financial services industry, there's basically 80% of the people in the industry are commission-based. So there's inherent conflicts of interest. And that's why stockbrokers and bond brokers and salesmen have a bad reputation, because they're not doing what's in the client's best interest. The whole idea of being a fiduciary, meaning you have to do what's in the client's best interest, not in yours. But there is a level of service that is consulting. They're fiduciaries, meaning they have to put, by law, the client first, not themselves. And that's kind of where I want to be. So that's where I am.
However, it's a balance, right? Trying to bring in money every week versus doing the thing.
The idea is that, again, with the right audience, with the right clients, to have the right needs, it's really education. And I like to put my arm around people and walk down the road together rather than sitting across the table. It's win-win. And the other thing is I like to educate, because if you understand what the issues are around a particular decision you need to make, you'll make a wise decision.
That is so true. I love that. Yep. So what are some of the major challenges that you faced along this journey, or you've seen your clients facing along the journey? What are the big problems that you see?
What I found is that, as a business owner, we have taxes that we have to pay. If we make money, we got to share it with the government. The IRS in the United States wants you to be successful. The IRS has a reputation of being the boogeyman. It's afraid of him. He's out to get you. You got to be careful of it. He's going to be an audit. And that's not true. The IRS wants you to be successful. And Congress, the lawmakers, have put all kinds of candy in the tax code so that you can be successful. There's family-friendly things. The idea is that if you're successful as a business owner and you've taken every legal deduction that you're entitled to, and the tax code says you're entitled to deduct whatever is ordinary and necessary as an expense against that income, if it's necessary for the production of that income. So that opens the door to things that W-2 employees can't do and retired people can't do. You get to deduct expenses that you need in order to run your business, to generate revenue. So that means you might need to hire your kids to do some of the work in your business. Now you're circulating money within your family, and it's a huge... So what I found is that there are those kind of things in the tax code. So I decided to become expert on that. As a business owner, you have all kinds of moves you can make that are legal, that are appropriate, but you just don't know about them. And the other thing I find is that the traditional industry, this is the mindset shift that I'm trying to bring to the table, is that your accountant or your CPA looks at things in a silo. He's looking at the taxes and he's looking to get the right numbers on the page and file the tax return properly. He's not doing tax planning, he's doing tax compliance. He's not doing tax strategy. He's not saying, how can you pay less taxes next year? He's just saying, this is what happened last year. Put the numbers on the page, submit the form, and pay your taxes. He's not trying to help you to strategize to pay less tax. Same thing with your financial broker. The financial doesn't know anything about taxes. I was talking to somebody last week, and we went on a fidelity call with their broker, and the broker was saying, yeah, you made 32% last year, so you got to pay a little tax. Big deal. And I said, no. Put the asset management into the retirement account where you don't pay taxes on it, or into the Roth account. And the after-tax account, buy and hold. No taxes. No, it's all unrealized gain until you actually sell it. You don't sell it for a long time. Anyway, so have your cake and eat it too. Why the heck not? Wisdom says, no, you can't do that. You got a tax expert, you got a financial expert, you got a therapist. None of these guys are talking to each other or looking at the whole picture. That's what I'm bringing to the table.
So I love that. Take a step back now. And so tax is obviously a huge issue. From what I'm hearing, we all have to pay tax, right? And I think when it comes to tax, end of tax year and the tax turnaround time, and you got the tax man on your case, there's a lot that goes on in the mind, in the business, and a lot of people are afraid of that, like you said, the boogeyman, the tax boogeyman. However, what I like about what you just said is that creating transformation by helping people understand that there's more to it than just the tax. It's how you're thinking and how you're planning in the future. And I really love how you call this tax candy. And I think a lot of people don't realize how much tax candy is. Now, I've had a fair bit of conversation with you, and we've talked about this quite a bit, but I don't think people realize how benefits there are when you have a business and you run your finances properly so that you can maximize the use of your income better. And that's huge. But as you mentioned, and to do it properly, you got to have a mindset shift around that. You got to have a purposeful, meaningful result around this. And this is what you're trying to help people with. It's not just, hey, I'm going to help you get taxed. I'm going to help you prepare for the rest of your life. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. The idea is it's all about mindset. And it goes back to, we tend to live in a box. We have certain things that in our comfort zone. And as long as we're in our comfort zone, we feel safe, we feel we're okay. And what happens is that people, because they haven't healed from their childhood wounds, are coping rather than healing. In other words, and because of that, they're in this box. And because of that, they limit the quality of their life, what they will or will not do, or will not experience. And a lot of times they're fear-based. That's what I find with the taxes, with business owners. They're afraid of the IRS, so they don't take a deduction. Or they just don't know, and it's out of ignorance that they're making decisions rather than out of informed, wise tax law. And why is that? Part of it is because, one, they don't know, but number two is that there may be some self-esteem issues around that, imposter syndrome issues. If you're a business owner, like I said before, your biggest strength is the guy looking back at the mirror. All the things that you have, the life experience, the desire to help, the technical expertise, all that is what you bring to the table. But what's the glass ceiling? What's limiting you from going higher? An analogy I'd like to use for a mental model. The Jim Rohn story. Jim Rohn was a business philosopher. And he said the wind, the rain, the sun, and the soil, and the seed is available to all of us. So why do some people thrive? Some people just get by, and some people struggle. Or another way of looking at it is the idea of the ocean of life is full. Why do some of us go to the ocean of life with a thimble and take a little bit away? Why do some go to the ocean of life with a bucket and take more away? Why do some go to the ocean of life and take a tub with them? Why do some people think to go to the ocean of life with a tanker truck? Why do some people go to the ocean of life and bring a fleet of tanker trucks? The ocean of life doesn't lack the capacity to fill any of it, and it's not diminished by it. That's the universal oneness. That's the abundance of the nature of the world. So what limits our capacity to receive? It's up here. It's the mindset stuff, the unhealed childhood wounds that limits our capacity to think we're worthy in this or good enough or able to receive it. So part of what I do, which is different than I think what most tax guys or financial guys, they look at themselves as engineers rather than as therapists. Not that I'm a therapist, but the idea is that we help people realize what's the biggest constraints that they have and how to change their thinking, their beliefs around what they're worthy of. Heal the childhood wounds, and then instead of taking a thimble to the ocean of life, you start bringing a bucket and then a tub and then a tanker truck because you believe you're worthy of it and you learn how to do it. That's why I'm talking to you, because you know how to do it.
It's amazing. Bill, Bill, what you said there just gave me goosebumps thinking about that whole concept of it. The sea of life has abundance, and it's how we present ourselves to that sea of life that makes a huge difference. That's a very powerful message. Thank you for sharing that. Now, I want to preface this next question with the thing is that money mindset is everything in business. And I think business owners know that for the most part. They understand that they have to have a good money mindset, but they don't know how to get to that money mindset, whether it's tax, having a better perspective on life, getting rid of childhood trauma, whatever that is. How would you propose business owners like me change themselves? Because there's a lot going on in business, right? There's a lot happening. You're busy, you've got staff, you've got bills to pay, you've got these engines that are running, right? And you know you've got to have the money mindset, you've got to have your tax in place, you've got to do all these things. So what would you suggest are the steps somebody would take to start changing the way they're doing things? What do they need to start looking at? What are the things that they can start putting into place to get to that place where they're feeling more comfortable, confident about money?
Okay, so let's talk about three different domains or aspects of what you're asking about. One is the taxes and the tactical, practical part of the taxes. And as part of what I do is I offer what I call a financial physical. It's kind of like taking a financial snapshot of your financial health. We look at the last 3 years' tax returns, see how tax efficient you are, see how well are you using the tax code to your advantage. Is there opportunities to amend it? Did you miss some tax deductions? Were they done properly? And then we do what we call a net worth statement. We take a snapshot of where you are right now financially. And there we can diagnose what stage of the financial life cycle you're in. Hopefully you're doing what you do because you love what you're doing. It's not about the money. But once you have enough money, then, that would be the goal. But if you don't have enough money, then how do you get the money? So we need to know where you are now. And then we basically use some ancient financial wisdom as we look at your assets or your net worth from the lens of how much is in real estate or land, how much is in business or ownership type things, and how much is in interest earning or safety type things or reserves. The Talmud talks about put a third in land, a third in the business, and a third in reserves. And that's a basic asset allocation model for anyone. And then depending on the stage of the life cycle, maybe you have 10% in the reserve, metrics and rubrics around that. But we use that to diagnose where someone is. Then we can say, okay, this is where you are. Now, where do you want to go? And how can you get there?
Amazing. So then you're helping to plan that journey forward.
Exactly.
Is that correct?
Right. It's like going to the doctor to take your blood work, and he wants to take your blood pressure, and he wants to take your pulse, and they want to see where you are, the state of your health, before he can recommend anything.
Yeah, exactly right. That's so good. So in your journey, what are some of the successes that you've seen in your business, in your life, for people around you? Like, what are the successes that you've seen from all of this?
Well, I have a client in particular. When she came to me, she was in all kinds of credit card debt. She was making around $50,000 a year, and she had a lot of self-esteem issues. And she'd gone through a divorce, and she had 2 young kids, and we started working on it. And through the financial process that we go through, we visited her credit rehab, did a financial physical. We helped her review some of her taxes and amended some of the returns and got her some more money back. we started realizing that as a W-2 employee, she's earning money, but as a consultant also has the capacity to circulate money within her family, get tax deductions, and offset some of the taxes she's paying as a W-2 employee with losses from her business. And anyway, the idea is that over time, we also did some PSYCH K around this, the financial, physical, and I call it the healing from your childhood wounds. We try to diagnose how well you've healed from your childhood wounds. And the idea that if you haven't, then we deal with the self-esteem issues. And with the PSYCH K, we deal with three things. I call it the affirmation accelerator. We can take I am statements or I believe or the affirmations that you have now, turn them into balanceable goal statement, and then using the PSYCH K process method, install them into your subconscious. Most of the conventional wisdom, 5% of our awareness is conscious, and it processes at 40,000 bits per second. Our subconscious is 95% of our awareness, and by definition, we're unaware of it or not conscious of it, and it processes at 40 million bits per second. And it's the subconscious mind that's orchestrating and keeping the 30, 40 million trillion cells in our body orchestrated as a body and working and breathing and all that. But it's also some beliefs about the way the world is from our childhood. We're all going through the same 9 months in utero, 2 years pre-verbal, fight, flight, or freeze, reptilian brain being built out, the verbal stage, how worthy am I safe, am I lovable, all that, to the neocortex. So we all have beliefs about the way the world is, and unless we had perfect parenting, we all got stuff that's hindering us or gives us beliefs about the way the world is. So the idea of helping people, we do three things with the PSYCH K process. One is that we rapidly install I am statements. I am worthy, I am lovable, I am enough, I'm worthy of the best that love and life have to offer. With the PSYCH K process, we have a way of diagnosing whether your subconscious already believes that. If it doesn't, then we have a method for installing it. And the idea is that all the modalities today work here. The PSYCH K process bypasses the conscious mind and speaks directly to the subconscious. Gets its permission, gets its cooperation. It's kind of everybody's a tiny dormouse trying to shout at the bull elephant of the subconscious, getting it to pay attention and do what it wants. Well, PSYCH K talks directly to the elephant and gets its cooperation. So that was one thing. I helped her with some of the belief statements. I am worthy, I am enough, I'm lovable, I am safe, that kind of stuff. Then the other thing that was my attraction to the PSYCH K was we transform the perception of stress. If you're stressing out about what happened in the past, or you're stressing out about maybe I'm going on a job interview or a podcast today, you can't change you can't change what's going to happen, but you can change your emotional relationship to what's going to happen. So it's not so stressful. And that's kind of what I did with the PSYCH K. And then also things in the future. So that's what we do.
How is she going?
She's making 240 grand a year. She's a VP of a startup company. And it's just amazing because she believes she can. She took a bigger bucket to the ocean of life. She didn't believe she was worthy of it. She thought she was a failure. She was not good enough. She divorced, had all this head trash. And we worked on that. And over time, she slowly just spiraled up.
Oh, good. That's powerful. That's a big shift from 50 grand a year to 250 grand a year. That's like 5 times an ROI coming and working with you. Like, that's crazy.
And she's got stock options that when the company sells out, she's going to be a millionaire.
Wow. That's huge. That deserves an applaud, right? Like, that's amazing. Because a lot of people are in that space, right? Small business owners, we got to deal with a lot, right? There's a lot of trauma that happened in our lives. And I think you probably got the nail on the head, right? Like, we all think that it's just what's happened in the last couple of years or what we're dealing with now, but we don't realize oftentimes that we're dragging baggage that's sitting at the back of our subconscious for years and years and years. And we might be dealing with it, like you said, but we're not healing from it, right? And it can drag us down. So finance, money mindset, managing your taxes. Like, I could imagine, and I mean, I can't speak for that lady, but I could just imagine that getting a whole lot of tax back is a huge, like, it's a great experience, it's a great feeling, right? It's a great thing going like, oh my goodness, I didn't realize I could have this money. I didn't have to give it all to the government. Like, that's a big win, right? But that's not everything. Like, it's like, okay, I've got this money back now, but what am I going to do going forward? And you've given your clients these tools to now shift and say, well, now I know how to manage my finances. Now I'm going to have the mindset and the capacity to heal from my childhood or past or any trauma that I've experienced. Could be bullying at school, for instance, right? It could be all kinds of things that have happened. And now giving her this tool, these mindset tools to move forward, go from 50 grand a year to 250 grand a year to now being a millionaire because she's been getting stocks from this other company. Like, that's huge. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is that with this person in particular, she came into the relationship knowing that she needed help, but she came in looking for taxes. I need a tax guy. We worked on that. But in the process of doing that, she said she got kids. She wants to retire someday. She's a single woman, and she was fear-based. In particular, we talked about her taxes, and she came to me for taxes. She was referred to me from another client. And we were able to do the financial physical, and we found out she had all kinds of issues, and she got all kinds of refunds back, and she was thrilled and happy about that. But she was also wounded because of the divorce and not having enough money and being able, how am I going to take care of myself and all that stuff? And what happened is over time, and this is just a generalization, but the psychology of women is they tend to be nesters. They want to protect the home, and so they want to take what they have and protect it. Whereas men have more of a hunter's mentality. If I need something else, I'll go out and hunt and get something else. So there's always more out there. So there's more of I don't want to say abundance mentality, but there's a different psychology around how money works. What we were able to do is take her fear about not being good enough and that there's, I don't have enough. And it took a couple of years for her to realize this. And now she's at the point where she knows she's got good money. She's going to be okay no matter what she does. So now how do we make it better? So now she's more open to taking appropriate risks. One of the things that a basic principle in finances and taxes is how to make taxes your friend, which we did that. But now how do you make inflation your friend? So now you need to own things that go up with inflation. What kind of asset classes go up with inflation? Real estate and stocks. Now, she doesn't want to be a homeowner herself because she doesn't want to have the responsibility of doing that, but she could become a landlord. She could own real estate. She's looking into that. And you can manage the risks of being a landlord by hiring a property manager. If you have a $500,000 house, you got inflation working on a $500,000 asset. So the two basic principles that we need to embrace is how to make taxes and inflation your friend. That's the goal. And what happens is a lot of people are living fear-based. You know, women tend to be nesters and they want to keep what they have rather than take risks. Men tend to be hunters, so they're willing to, there's always another deer or a buck or something to be shot that I can eat. You know, they don't worry so much about it. They have a different mindset about taking risk. There's no right or wrong. It's just difference in the way people view the world. But through working with this person, with her internal childhood beliefs and her fears and her doubts and her worthiness, basically increasing her capacity to take a bigger bucket to the ocean of life, she was able to say, okay, I have enough money in the bank. So now how can I make it work harder? So now she's thinking about, okay, maybe how do I get inflation to work for me? I'm going to invest in some real estate. And the other big asset class that also goes up with inflation is equities, ownership type assets. So that means stocks. Now, that doesn't mean individual stocks. You don't have to be an analyst. You don't have to be an expert because there's default risk when you have that. But if you buy a big basket of blue chip companies, index funds in particular, the major advantage that the big companies have is that they can write the legislation for the Congress and the Congress approves it. The idea that they can level the playing field in their favor. The other thing that they can do that a lot of small businesses can't do is that they can basically, when they get cost increases, pass them on to their clients in the form of cost increases. We experience it as inflation, higher prices, but the companies maintain their profitability. And if you look at from the early 19 up till today, the stock market tends to go up. And why is that? Because of the principle that companies can maintain their profitability because they pass their cost increases. As a small investor, you'll be on that train because over time, you want your assets to go up with inflation. So the idea is you own assets that go up with inflation. Now, if you want to get into stock picking and be a broker, you can do that, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're just basically talking about aligning with principles of wealth creation that are going to work over time, no matter what you do.
I love the idea of compounding interest. Einstein had a famous quote where he said, compounding interest is one of the most amazing engines ever created by man, right? And the thought of that is quite exciting. However, a lot of people, mainstream people, don't get that. They don't seem to understand that just putting a little bit away each month, each year, or each week over time has such a leverage on compounding. And when you just take action and you commit to that, how powerful it becomes over time.
Exactly. I mean, that's one of the things that we teach. You know, good money management is one of the principles of wealth creation. You got to pay yourself first. There's no extra money at the end of the paycheck. It's all spoken for. So if you wait to have extra money before you start saving, it's never going to happen. So the idea is put the 5%, the 10%, the 15, the 20% away, depending on the level of life cycle that you're in, so that your future is taken care of. That money is out of your budget. It's not spending money. It's money that you put in that you don't use for spending. Once you've done that, take all the rest of the money and do whatever you want with it. Live your life with that. I have a lot of hairstylist clients, and they live paycheck to paycheck. And they make good money, but they also have a big lifestyle. So what they need to learn is that if I take some of my money, some of my tip money in cash and put it aside and forget about it, I'm going to be financially free someday. Their biggest fear is that I'm always going to be standing behind the chair cutting hair, and I'm going to age out of that. I'm going to be able to do that. Well, put the money aside now, get the magic of compound interest working for you, get those two things of taxes and inflation aligned and working for you rather than against you. And someday you can retire, or you keep working because you love it, not because you're out of a lack of money.
I think a lot of people, and maybe you can here have an answer for this, is sometimes you get to an older age and you think, oh, it's too late for me,
Well,
right? What are your thoughts on that? Because I think that's a fear that a lot of people have. They're like, I can't invest, I'm too old.
well, the idea is that it depends on your
I've missed the track.
I have some strong thoughts on that. The idea is that when Social Security first came into existence, it was 1937, the average life expectancy, you're supposed to live to 65 and die by 66. So you only had 1 year to pay benefits, but life expectancy has been extended. What's happening with the AI and the medical field is, people are going to live to 100 or 150 as a regular course of business. So the idea of during the 30 or 40 years of your working life, set aside enough money so that you can live another, it used to be 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, but it's going to be longer than that. So the idea is that it's a renewing of the mind is what needs to happen. And the expectation that, I had one client who was, and this is a cultural thing, he was a director of the freight terminal at the JFK airport for Swiss Air. And he was a big strapping guy and vibrant, and we did his financial planning and so on. Then he retired. And I didn't see him for a couple of months after he retired. But when I saw him, he became an old man. He was walking slowly, his face had dropped, because in that culture, while you work, you're a vibrant part of society. When you retire, you're used up. You're supposed to die and go away, so to speak. And it's just, again, it's a mindset thing. So the short answer is it's never too late. The other thing is that what are you going to do for the next 30 years? You retire with the business that we're in, is that digital age marketing is leveling the playing field. You don't have to be, big capital investments to start on automobile manufacturing. You just need a few bucks. And what you really need is the want to. The how to will show up,
Yeah.
So
Good. I love that. And for me, I have lots of thoughts on retirement. I don't think retirement is a good word to use. I don't like the word retirement because I don't see myself ever retiring. It's a change or a shift in what you're doing, right? Because you've got to have purpose and passion. And if there is an end, right, before your end, like you're going to bring your end closer to your end, right? Because like you said, that guy lost his purpose, maybe lost his vision, whole body changed, everything changed, right? Because that's what happens. So I don't like that idea of retirement. However, I do like what your message is about planning for that future. When you do stop working, what is the work after the work? What is the drive that gets you to the place? Looking after yourself when you shift direction is important, right? For all of us these days, we're all going to live longer. I know I certainly am. Keep healthy, eat well. We don't have the same mindset and the same dynamics as we did 20, 30 years ago. It's very different.
Well, this is the idea of conventional wisdom and kind of turning conventional wisdom on its head. The idea is that, in the industrial age or, in the 19th century, 20th century, you go to work for 30, 40 years for a company and they would give you a pension and your productive life, kind of like this guy I was just talking about. And then your life is over, so to speak. But that's your productive life is while you're working. That's all changed now. It's kind of like the mental model I like to use, kind of like the Pony Express rider. If it was 1860 and there's new technology, they just formed a new company that they're going to be able to get your message from Sacramento, California in 10 days. The traditional way to get there is going to take 3 months through a coach caravan or a wagon train.
Yeah.
So the idea is that in 10 days, that was amazing. But what happened? Somebody invented the telegraph. No more need for Pony Express. Then what happened? Somebody invented the cell phone. So what if I had said to a guy who was a Pony Express rider who wanted to get a message to somebody in California, he said, well, why don't we call him? he wouldn't be able to relate to the technology. So part of what's going on
Yeah.
today, we are in a Pony Express mindset. When we have iPhone technology available to us, AI is changing the way we think and what's possible. So that's part of the mindset shift. And what you do to help people be productive in this digital age marketing is powerful. It's huge because it provides economic security. It gives them the ability, okay, I'm no longer doing my day job or what I did for 30 years, but I can still be productive in the world. I can still have abundance. And what tends to happen over the course of someone's life is they go from doing things based on lack and fear to being, okay, how
Yeah.
can I make a difference? Is an abundance mentality. How can I pay it forward? And
Very good.
enhances that big time, So
And what you do, Bill, is helping people to plan for that and create a better mindset for the future. Bill, as we're ending, this has been an amazing conversation. I could speak about this for hours and dive into all these different contexts and different areas, but we've come to an end now, and you got a powerful message. If you were to give the audience a key message that you're passionate about sharing in your work, what would that be?
the theme is how to make taxes and inflation your friend. And the idea is the way to do that is to start with a financial physical or attend my getmytaxcandy.com masterclass, which is a way of learning how to get your tax candy. Also, I have a PDF that I could send everyone who's interested in it, of 500 tax deductions that are available for small business owners. One of the things, again, small business owners have a qualitative leg up advantage that W-2 employees don't, retirement people don't, because you get to deduct expenses. And let me just talk about this a little bit, because now that we're getting into the nitty-gritty of the taxes, the ideal client for me is someone who is in business, making money, paying taxes, and has kids. If they have kids, now you can circulate money within the business, get a tax deduction for it, ring the tax bell, save the money, and have it show up in your business. So if you're in the 50% tax bracket, 35% to federal, 5 to 7% to the state, and 15.3 self-employment tax, let's say 50% it's a tax bracket. If you basically hire your child and pay him $7,000, now they're eligible for a Roth IRA. Roth IRA is huge. I'll talk about that in a minute. But now you get to like you're hiring a contractor. You pay him $7,000. It's a business expense. You get to save $3,500 in taxes. Instead of sending it to the government, you get to keep it. So that's huge. And now, where is the money? It's in your bank account for the benefit of the kid. You still control it. You still have access to it. You're the parent. They can't own money as minors. The other question is, well, how can I hire a kid? What can a baby do? Well, babies can be models. They make great images. Use them on your website. Pay them a modeling fee. Now they have earned income. This is key. In order to qualify for a Roth IRA, you have to have earned income. It can't be investment income. It can't be, so it's got to be earned. You got to work. So the idea, how do you get a baby to work? Well, you hire them as a model. They can do that. It's got to be age appropriate. It's got to be paying them a reasonable compensation for that kind of work. So $7,000 is possible. Now they have the ability to do a Roth IRA. Let me just talk a little bit about the Roth, because this is so powerful. It's such a powerful tool. And here I need to put on my teacher hat a little bit, and then we'll finish this up, is that the idea in the 1980s, Congress saw that the baby boom was going to be retiring in 30 years. And Congress said, we don't want to be responsible for all these baby boomers retiring in 30 years. So we need to incentivize them to be able to save for themselves. How do we do that? So they came up with sections of the tax code called the 401k, the 403b, the 457, which are all sections to the tax code. The 401k is for-profit organizations that set up a retirement plan. 403b is not for-profit organizations that set up a retirement plan. And the 457 is municipalities that set up a retirement plan. It's language in the tax code that lets people take money out of their pay, take a tax deduction for it, and then put it away. And then it doesn't get taxed again until they retire someday. Now, here's the thing. Back in 1986, the average tax rate for people, 75%. So it made sense to take money out of my salary, $2,000 for an IRA, and put it into an IRA, no pay tax on it. And then when it becomes a harvest, that's when I take it out. But I'm going to be in a lower tax bracket when I retire. So it made business sense. So leveraging the tax rates, arbitrage. But what happened is, in this country, income tax rates dropped. The Reagan Revolution and productivity and computers came on. So the tax rates now are 35%. It's the top rate in this country. So then in 1999, Senator Ross said, well, why don't we turn this on its head? Why don't we say, we'll pay taxes on your seed, but when it becomes a harvest, you don't have to pay any taxes on it ever again. It sounded too good to be true. It's kind of like, I'm going to take this acorn, which in the old system, I take a tax deduction for the acorn. But when I get to the 100-foot tree and start harvesting it, I got to share it with the government. Now we turn that on its head. I'm going to pay tax on the acorn, but when it becomes a 100-foot tree and then I start harvesting it, I don't have to share it. It's all my money. Tax free. It's huge. We
Wow.
beat the tax man legally, and he wants you to do it. The
Amazing.
question is, how do you?
Creates more industry and it creates more vibrance in the industry, and the country grows better for it, right? If people are taking advantage of this stuff.
Exactly.
Because if you understand the mechanics of it, it's not so much about the wealthy getting wealthier. It's about everybody has an opportunity to advance from this if
Exactly.
they just know how to use
He
this, right?
levels the playing.
Levels the playing field. So, so cool, Bill. I really love all this stuff. And so if I would like for you to share with me, right? And I asked you this question, I think we kind of went down a little bit of a rabbit hole, but I really want you to share with me, what is your key message you're passionate about sharing with the audience today?
For me, the idea is that the guy in the glass is your biggest asset and he's your biggest liability. So to what extent have you healed from your childhood wounds? If you have, great, that's wonderful. You can be successful, you can be a bigger blessing to everyone else. But what's preventing you from doing that? What's holding that back? Why aren't you more successful? Why aren't you taking a bigger bucket to the ocean of life? And let's deal with the issues at the subconscious level where they live, which is doing some PSYCH K balances and find out. What I do with people is basically we do a 3-session, 1 hour, we assess how well have you healed from your childhood wounds. And if you healed, no work to be done. God bless you. Wonderful. But if you haven't, then we can do some of that healing work. So then you can start leveling up in consciousness. So for me, that's the biggest message. How can I be what's the biggest lever? We talk about leverage, where do we put the fulcrum? Our within creates our without. So within is improved, our without is going to improve. It's as simple or as complex as that. And all conventional wisdom
Amazing.
says that, but that's where I think the PSYCH K is a game changer. But that's just me.
Amazing. Amazing, Bill. It has been an honor and a pleasure hanging out with you today. Really enjoyed this conversation. I think there's a lot of value bombs that have been dropped here today, guys. If you're listening to this, we will be dropping the 500 checklist of tax deductions that you can put into your business today. That PDF will be going into the show notes. You guys, I would highly suggest jumping into that, grabbing hold of that, looking at all of Bill's stuff. There will be links in there, obviously. But check it out. Like, who doesn't want to get more money from the tax man, right? And there's things that we don't know. And if we don't know, we don't know. But if you get enlightened, everything changes. So amazing chatting to you, Bill. You have an amazing day, and we will talk again soon.
Thank you so much, Matthew. I appreciate it. It's been wonderful.